In the vast, endless expanse of space where stars twinkled like tiny diamonds scattered across a black velvet canvas, humanity had finally begun to stretch its wings. Earth was no longer just a cradle for life. It was now a launching pad for exploration and expansion. Over centuries of innovation, humans had mastered the art of surviving beyond their home planet. They built colonies on distant moons, mined asteroids for precious resources, and even terraformed barren planets into habitable worlds. These colonies weren't mere outposts. They were thriving communities filled with families, scientists, engineers, and dreamers who dared to imagine a future among the stars. The largest of these colonies was Proxima Haven, located on a moon, orbiting Proxima Centauri b, one of Earth's closest neighboring star systems. It was a marvel of human engineering, a sprawling city encased in a shimmering dome that protected its inhabitants from the harsh environment outside. Inside, people lived much as they did on Earth. Children played in parks, farmers cultivated crops using advanced hydroponic systems, and markets buzzed with activity. Life here wasn't perfect. There were challenges, of course, but it represented humanity's indomitable spirit. Despite the dangers of space, they had carved out a new existence far from their blue-green home. But not everyone in the galaxy welcomed humanity's rise. Deep in the shadowy corners of uncharted space, an alien species known as the Vorthak watched Earth's progress with growing unease. The Vorthak were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered before. Their bodies were sleek and insectoid, covered in glossy black carapaces that glinted under starlight. Their eyes, large and multifaceted, reflected every movement around them, giving them an almost predatory appearance. For centuries, the Vorthak had dominated this region of space, conquering weaker species and claiming resources without mercy. To them, the universe was a battlefield, and only the strongest deserved to survive. When the Vorthak first detected signs of human colonization, they dismissed it as insignificant. After all, what threat could a fragile, oxygen-dependent species pose? But as more colonies sprang up and humanity's influence grew, the Vorthak began to take notice. They sent probes to study these newcomers, analyzing their technology and observing their behavior. What they found disturbed them. Humans were adaptable, resourceful, and relentless. Unlike many other species, they didn't shy away from danger. They embraced it, finding ways to overcome obstacles that would have crushed lesser beings. Worst of all, humans worked together. Even though Earth itself was divided by nations and ideologies, in space, they acted as one cohesive unit. This unity made them unpredictable and dangerous. For months, the Vorthak debated how to handle the situation. Some argued for diplomacy, suggesting they offer humanity a place within their empire if they submitted peacefully. Others believed in swift, decisive action, wiping out the colonies before they became too powerful to challenge. In the end, fear won out. The Vorthak couldn't risk allowing humanity to grow any stronger. If left unchecked, these upstarts might one day surpass even the Vorthak themselves. And so, a decision was made. The colonies would be destroyed, sending a clear message to Earth that further expansion would not be tolerated. The attack came without warning. One moment, Proxima Haven was bustling with life. The next, the sky erupted in flames. A fleet of Vorthak warships descended upon the colony, their sleek, jagged designs cutting through the atmosphere like blades. Bright red beams of energy lanced down from above, striking buildings, power grids, and defense stations. The protective dome that shielded the colony shattered under the barrage, exposing its inhabitants to the freezing vacuum of space. Chaos erupted instantly. People screamed and ran for cover as explosions tore through the streets. Emergency alarms blared, their shrill cries drowned out by the roar of collapsing structures. The Vorthak wasted no time. Troop carriers descended onto the surface, deploying swarms of insect-like drones armed with plasma rifles. These machines moved with terrifying efficiency, hunting down survivors and eliminating anyone who resisted. The colony's defenses, designed primarily to fend off meteor strikes and environmental hazards, proved woefully inadequate against such a coordinated assault. Within hours, Proxima Haven was reduced to rubble. Fires raged unchecked, consuming what little remained of the once thriving settlement. Those who hadn't been killed outright fled into the wilderness, hoping to escape the slaughter. As the dust settled, the Vorthak surveyed their handiwork with cold satisfaction. To them, this was a necessary act, a demonstration of power meant to intimidate humanity into submission. They recorded images of the devastation, intending to broadcast them to Earth as a warning. "This is what happens when you trespass where you don't belong," their leader declared in a transmission sent toward the Sol system. "Leave these stars or face annihilation." But the Vorthak had underestimated their enemy. While Proxima Haven burned, news of the attack spread rapidly across the colonies. Communication relays carried frantic messages from survivors, detailing the horror they had witnessed. Videos of the destruction circulated among the settlements, igniting outrage and fear in equal measure. On Earth, governments convened emergency meetings, scrambling to respond to the crisis. Military leaders pored over intelligence reports trying to understand the capabilities of this unknown foe. Scientists worked around the clock to analyze scraps of Vorthak technology recovered from the wreckage. What the Vorthak didn't realize was that humanity had been preparing for a moment like this for decades. Beneath the surface of Earth, hidden in secure bunkers and underground facilities, lay a secret arsenal that few even knew existed. These were the Star Destroyers, massive warships engineered in absolute secrecy as a contingency plan for humanity's survival. Each vessel was a technological marvel, equipped with weapons capable of leveling entire cities and shields strong enough to withstand sustained bombardment. They were designed not just to defend but to dominate, to ensure that humanity would never again be caught off guard. For years, rumors of the Star Destroyers had circulated, dismissed by most as conspiracy theories. Now, those rumors were about to become reality. As the Vorthak celebrated their victory at Proxima Haven, Earth's leaders activated the fleet. Massive engines roared to life deep underground, shaking the very foundations of the planet. Crews rushed to their stations, readying the ships for launch. The countdown had begun. Meanwhile, the colonies braced for further attacks. Refugees poured into neighboring settlements, seeking safety from the invaders. Volunteers stepped forward to bolster defenses, knowing full well that they stood little chance against the Vorthak's superior firepower. Yet amidst the fear and uncertainty, there was also defiance. Humanity had faced extinction-level threats before: asteroids, plagues, nuclear wars, and each time they had risen to meet the challenge. This time would be no different. And so, while the Vorthak prepared to strike again, humanity waited. Not in despair, but in anticipation. For the first time in history, Earth's sky would part, revealing a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The aliens thought they had delivered a crushing blow, but in truth, they had awakened something far greater, something unstoppable. The aftermath of the attack on Proxima Haven sent shockwaves rippling through humanity's colonies. Panic gripped the settlers as reports of the devastation spread like wildfire. Communication channels buzzed non-stop with desperate messages, cries for help, and warnings to neighboring settlements. Refugees fled in droves, seeking sanctuary on safer worlds or aboard supply ships bound for Earth. The once thriving colony was now a graveyard, a grim reminder of how vulnerable humanity truly was in the vastness of space. On Earth, the mood was tense but resolute. News outlets broadcast images of the destruction around the clock, showing burning domes, shattered infrastructure, and frightened survivors huddled together in makeshift shelters. Governments convened emergency sessions, debating how best to respond to this unprecedented threat. Military leaders argued over strategies, while scientists pored over fragments of alien technology recovered from the wreckage. Everyone wanted answers. Who were these attackers? Why had they struck? And most importantly, what could be done to stop them? But behind closed doors, something extraordinary was happening. In secure facilities buried deep beneath mountains and deserts, engineers and technicians worked tirelessly to prepare for humanity's counterattack. For decades, these underground bunkers had housed a secret project known only to a select few. It was called Operation Starshield, and its purpose was simple yet terrifying: to ensure that humanity would never again face extinction without fighting back with everything it had. At the heart of Operation Starshield lay the Star Destroyers. These massive warships were unlike anything humanity had ever built before. Each vessel stretched nearly 5 kilometers in length, towering over even the largest battleships in Earth's naval history. Their sleek, angular designs made them look more like weapons than ships, with jagged edges and glowing energy conduits running along their hulls. Every inch of their construction was engineered for maximum efficiency and lethality. The Star Destroyers weren't just bigger versions of existing spacecraft. They represented a quantum leap in technology. Their engines utilized experimental fusion reactors capable of generating power far beyond conventional limits. This allowed the ships to travel at speeds previously thought impossible, crossing light years in mere weeks. Their weaponry included plasma cannons, railguns capable of firing projectiles at near light speed, and experimental EMP devices designed to disable enemy electronics. Perhaps most impressive of all were their shields. Layer upon layer of energy, barriers that could absorb devastating blows without faltering. Yet despite their raw power, the Star Destroyers weren't meant to operate alone. They were designed to function as part of a coordinated fleet, working in tandem with smaller support vessels and ground forces. Drones, fighters, and reconnaissance craft accompanied each destroyer, forming a multi-layered web of defense and offense. Together they formed an unstoppable juggernaut, capable of overwhelming any adversary foolish enough to stand against them. For years, the existence of the Star Destroyers had been kept under wraps, hidden not only from potential enemies, but also from much of humanity itself. Only top-ranking officials, military commanders, and key scientists knew about the project. Even those involved in its development were sworn to secrecy, their work compartmentalized to prevent leaks. The reasoning behind this secrecy was clear. If the wrong people learned about the Star Destroyers, they might try to use them prematurely, or worse, sabotage them entirely. Now, however, there was no time for hesitation. With the Vorthak poised to strike again, humanity's leaders activated the fleet. Massive hangar doors slid open atop remote mountain ranges, revealing rows of gleaming starships ready for launch. Crews rushed to their stations, strapping into control panels and powering up systems. Engineers performed final checks, ensuring every component was functioning perfectly. Outside, civilians watched in awe as the sky above began to shimmer with heat distortion, signaling the imminent departure of the destroyers. As the countdown reached 0, the first Star Destroyer roared to life. Its engines ignited with a deafening roar, sending shockwaves rippling through the surrounding landscape. Slowly but surely, the behemoth lifted off the ground, rising higher and higher until it pierced the clouds. One by one, the rest of the fleet followed suit, each ship ascending into orbit with majestic grace. The sight was breathtaking, humanity's salvation rising from the depths of its own planet, a testament to centuries of innovation and perseverance. From space, the spectacle was equally awe-inspiring. Cameras mounted on satellites captured footage of the fleet emerging from Earth's atmosphere, their metallic hulls glinting in the sunlight. As they moved into formation, the sheer scale of the operation became apparent. Dozens of destroyers spread out across the void, flanked by squadrons of fighters and supply ships. Together they formed a protective barrier around Earth's remaining colonies, daring anyone to come closer. Back on Earth, billions of people tuned in to watch live broadcasts of the event. Social media exploded with reactions ranging from disbelief to pride. Some viewers wept openly, overwhelmed by the realization that humanity still had hope. Others cheered, pumping their fists in defiance of the alien invaders. Politicians delivered impassioned speeches, vowing to protect their species no matter the cost. For the first time since the attack, there was a sense of unity, not just among nations, but across the entire human race. Meanwhile, the Vorthak observed these developments with growing unease. At first they dismissed the sudden appearance of new ships as mere posturing. Surely such primitive beings couldn't have developed anything capable of challenging their dominance. But as more data poured in, doubt began to creep into their minds. Scouts reported that the human vessels were larger, faster, and better armed than anything they'd encountered before. When one of the Star Destroyers fired a test shot, obliterating a nearby asteroid with pinpoint accuracy, the message became crystal clear. Humanity wasn't bluffing. The Vorthak attempted to regroup, recalibrating their strategy to account for this unexpected development. They launched additional attacks on other colonies, hoping to catch humanity off guard while their fleet was still mobilizing. But to their dismay, the humans didn't falter. Instead, they fought back with renewed determination, holding their ground until reinforcements arrived. Ground troops dug trenches and fortified positions, while orbital defenses inflicted heavy losses on incoming Vorthak fleets. Civilians joined the effort too, volunteering to repair damaged equipment, tend to wounded soldiers, and manufacture supplies. What terrified the Vorthak most, however, wasn't the Star Destroyers themselves. It was the resolve displayed by humanity. Despite being scattered across countless worlds, human colonies coordinated seamlessly, sharing intelligence and resources to maximize their advantage. Soldiers from different nations worked side by side, putting aside old rivalries for the greater good. Scientists collaborated across borders, pooling knowledge to develop countermeasures against Vorthak technology. Even ordinary citizens contributed, organizing fundraisers, donating blood, and offering whatever assistance they could. This collective spirit crushed the Vorthak's morale. For centuries, they had relied on brute force and intimidation to subjugate weaker species. But humanity refused to break. Instead, they adapted, innovated, and persevered. Every setback only strengthened their resolve. Every loss fueled their desire for revenge. To the Vorthak, it seemed as though they were facing not just an army, but an entire civilization united in purpose. And so, as the days turned into weeks, the balance of power began to shift. The Vorthak found themselves bogged down in protracted conflicts, unable to achieve the swift victories they had anticipated. Meanwhile, the Star Destroyers continued to expand their reach, establishing patrol routes and fortifying key locations. Humanity's presence in the galaxy grew stronger with each passing day, bolstered by the knowledge that they now possessed the means to defend themselves and exact retribution. High above the fray, aboard the flagship of the Star Destroyer fleet, Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge, gazing out at the stars. She had spent her entire career preparing for moments like this, training herself and her crew for the day when humanity's survival depended on their actions. Now, that day had come. Her voice echoed through the ship's intercom as she addressed her crew. We are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for every human being who has ever looked up at the night sky and dreamed of reaching for the stars. Today, we show the universe what happens when you threaten our future. With those words, the fleet surged forward, ready to reclaim what had been lost and send a message to the Vorthak that humanity's wrath was not something to be taken lightly. The moment humanity had been waiting for finally arrived. The Star Destroyers, those colossal machines of war that represented Earth's last line of defense and its ultimate weapon, were now fully operational. Their sleek, intimidating forms hung in orbit around Earth and its colonies like silent guardians, ready to unleash hell upon any who dared threaten them. For the Vorthak, this marked a turning point they hadn't anticipated. What began as a calculated strike against Proxima Haven had spiraled into something far greater, an all-out confrontation with a species that refused to bow. As the first wave of Star Destroyers moved into position, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. The Vorthak fleet, still scattered across multiple systems after their initial attacks, scrambled to regroup. Their leaders convened aboard their flagship, a monstrous vessel known as the Vorithus, whose jagged design resembled the fangs of some great predator. Inside, commanders argued fiercely over strategy. Some advocated retreat, believing discretion was the better part of valor when facing such overwhelming firepower. Others demanded revenge, insisting that humanity must be crushed before it grew even stronger. In the end, pride won out. The Vorthak were warriors by nature, and surrender was not in their vocabulary. From the safety of his command center on the Varathas, General Zixler, the highest-ranking officer in the Vorthak military, issued orders to prepare for battle. His multifaceted eyes glowed with determination as he addressed his subordinates. "They think their shiny toys make them invincible," he growled, his voice dripping with contempt. "We will show them otherwise. Today we teach these insects what true power looks like." But deep down, Zixlar harbored doubts. The images of Earth's sky parting to reveal the Star Destroyers haunted him. He had seen the destruction caused by one of their test shots, a mountain-sized asteroid reduced to dust in seconds. Such power defied logic, especially for a species that had only recently ventured beyond its own planet. Could they have underestimated humanity? Was this truly the beginning of the end? Meanwhile, aboard the human flagship Eclipse, Admiral Elena Vasquez prepared her forces for what would likely be the most pivotal battle in human history. Her bridge crew worked tirelessly, monitoring sensor readings, plotting trajectories, and coordinating with Allied ships spread across dozens of light years. The tension was palpable. Everyone knew the stakes. Success meant survival, not just for humanity, but for every peaceful species in the galaxy. Failure meant extinction. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Marcus Chen, the ship's tactical officer, breaking the silence. "Enemy fleets are converging at coordinates Alpha 7. Estimated. Time to engagement, 10 minutes. Vasquez nodded grimly. "Signal the fleet. Battle stations. Let's remind them why they should have left us alone." Across the void, alarms blared as both sides prepared for combat. The Vorthak ships, numbering in the hundreds, formed a loose, crescent shape, their jagged hulls glinting menacingly under distant starlight. They were fast, agile, and deadly, designed for hit-and-run tactics that had served them well in countless wars. But today, they faced something entirely different. Humanity's star destroyers loomed ahead, massive and unyielding, their energy, shields shimmering faintly as they powered up for battle. When the fighting began, it erupted with ferocity unmatched by anything either side had experienced before. The Vorthak launched the first salvo, sending waves of plasma bolts streaking toward the human fleet. The projectiles struck the Star Destroyer's shields, creating dazzling bursts of light as they dissipated harmlessly. It was immediately clear that conventional weapons wouldn't work against such advanced defenses. In response, the Star Destroyers unleashed their full might. Massive railguns mounted along their hulls fired hypersonic projectiles capable of tearing through enemy ships. Like paper, one shot obliterated an entire squadron of Vorthak fighters, reducing them to flaming debris in an instant. Plasma cannons added to the carnage, their searing beams cutting through alien vessels with surgical precision. Even the smaller support craft accompanying the destroyers proved devastatingly effective, swarming enemy formations and picking off stragglers. The Vorthak fought back valiantly, deploying everything in their arsenal. Swarms of insectoid drones descended upon the human fleet, attempting to overwhelm them with sheer numbers. Energy torpedoes screamed through space, seeking weak points in the Star Destroyer's shields. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the tide might turn. Several human ships sustained minor damage and a few fighters were lost in the chaos. But humanity's resolve never wavered. Every setback was met with renewed aggression. When one destroyer took heavy fire, others moved to cover it, forming overlapping shield networks that made them nearly impervious to attack. Ground-based defenses stationed on nearby colonies joined the fray, launching missiles and anti-aircraft, barrages that further decimated the Vorthak ranks. Civilians, inspired by the bravery of their defenders, volunteered en masse to repair damaged ships and man communications arrays, ensuring no resource went unused. What shocked the Vorthak most, however, wasn't just the raw power of the Star Destroyers. It was how seamlessly humanity operated as a single entity. Soldiers from nations that had once been bitter rivals now fought shoulder to shoulder, united by a common cause. Scientists shared data instantly, developing countermeasures to neutralize Vorthak technology within hours. Engineers worked around the clock to patch up damaged vessels, keeping the fleet operational despite relentless assaults. Even ordinary citizens contributed, organizing supply drives and offering emotional support to troops via live broadcasts. This unity terrified the Sea Vorthak. They had always relied on brute force and psychological warfare to conquer weaker species. But humanity didn't break. If anything, each blow only strengthened their resolve. Every loss fueled their anger, every victory bolstered their confidence. To the Vorthak, it felt as though they were fighting not just an army but an entire civilization determined to survive at any cost. General Zixlar watched in growing horror as his forces crumbled before his eyes. Ship after ship exploded in fiery balls of plasma, their crews screaming as they were consumed by flames. His own flagship, the Varathis, sustained critical damage, forcing him to order a retreat. "Pull back," he shouted, his voice laced with desperation. "Regroup and reassess." But retreating proved easier said than done. The Star Destroyers pursued relentlessly, their superior speed allowing them to chase down fleeing enemies. Railgun shots tore through escaping vessels, leaving trails of wreckage in their wake. Plasma beams incinerated entire squadrons, obliterating any chance of escape. By the time the dust settled, more than half of the Vorthak fleet lay in ruins, drifting lifelessly through the void. Back aboard the Eclipse, Admiral Vasquez surveyed the battlefield with a mixture of satisfaction and sorrow. Satisfaction because humanity had emerged victorious, proving itself capable of standing toe-to-toe with even the fiercest adversaries. Sorrow because countless lives had been lost, both human and alien, in the conflict. She turned to her crew, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Today we showed the universe what happens when you threaten our future. But let this also serve as a warning. Humanity does not seek conquest. We seek peace, but we will defend ourselves with every fiber of our being." Her words resonated throughout the fleet, broadcast to every colony and settlement across the stars. People cheered, tears streaming down their faces as they celebrated their hard-fought victory. Yet amidst the jubilation, there was also reflection. Humanity had proven its strength, but it had also demonstrated its capacity for compassion. The Star Destroyers weren't merely tools of destruction. They were symbols of hope, reminders that even in the darkest times, unity and determination could overcome any obstacle. As the survivors of the Vorthak fleet limped away, vowing never to return, humanity looked toward the future. The galaxy was vast and unpredictable, filled with wonders and dangers yet unknown. But one thing was certain. Wherever humans went, they would carry with them the lessons learned from this battle. They would explore, they would build, and they would thrive. But they would do so knowing that they were no longer vulnerable. They had stared into the abyss and emerged stronger for it. And somewhere, deep in the shadows of space, whispers began to spread among other alien species. Tales of a blue-green world whose skies parted to reveal unstoppable warships. Tales of a people who, when pushed to the brink, rose together as one. Tales of humanity, the newcomers who had changed the course of galactic history forever. The aftermath of the battle left the galaxy in stunned silence. Never before had a species risen so swiftly from obscurity to dominance. The Vorthak, once feared conquerors who ruled through terror and brute force, now fled like shadows into the depths of space, their pride shattered and their empire teetering on the brink of collapse. Their retreat was not just a tactical withdrawal, it was an admission of defeat, a stark acknowledgement that humanity was no longer prey, but predator. For humanity, however, the victory came at a steep cost. Billions mourned the lives lost during the initial attacks on Proxima Haven and other colonies. Entire families had been wiped out, communities erased, and dreams reduced to ashes. Refugees poured into safer settlements, carrying with them stories of unimaginable horror. On Earth, memorials were erected in honor of those who had perished, their names etched into stone as a reminder of the sacrifices made. Yet even amid the grief, there was pride. Humanity had faced extinction-level threats before. Asteroids, pandemics, nuclear wars, but this time, they had stood united, refusing to yield. Their resilience became a beacon of hope, not just for themselves but for every sentient being watching from afar. The Star Destroyers, now legendary symbols of human ingenuity and strength, remained stationed across key sectors of space. These behemoths didn't just serve as instruments of war, they acted as guardians, ensuring that no enemy could ever threaten Earth's colonies again. Smaller vessels patrolled the borders of human territory, while reconnaissance drones mapped uncharted regions of the galaxy. Every movement, every signal was monitored meticulously. Humanity wasn't taking any chances. They had learned the hard way that complacency invited disaster, but the Vorthak weren't done yet. Though battered and broken, they still clung to the belief that they were superior beings destined to rule the stars. In secret, they regrouped on remote planets far beyond human reach, nursing their wounds and plotting revenge. General Zixlar, humiliated by his failure, vowed to restore the glory of his people. He convened his surviving commanders, demanding new strategies to counter the Star Destroyers. "We underestimated them," he admitted bitterly, his voice trembling with rage. "They are stronger than we thought, but they are not invincible." What followed was a frantic scramble to rebuild their fleet. Factories churned out new ships around the clock, while scientists worked tirelessly to reverse engineer fragments of human technology salvaged from the battlefield. The Vorthak knew they couldn't win another direct confrontation, not yet at least. Instead, they turned their attention to unconventional tactics: sabotage, espionage, and hit-and-run strikes designed to weaken humanity's resolve. They began infiltrating human colonies, planting spies among civilian populations and hacking into communication networks. Some even attempted to corrupt supply lines, hoping to starve the Star Destroyers of resources. Yet despite their efforts, humanity proved remarkably resilient. Security measures tightened across all colonies, with advanced AI systems scanning for anomalies and rooting out potential threats. Loyalty tests became mandatory for anyone working in sensitive positions, and emergency drills prepared citizens for the possibility of renewed attacks. Even children were taught basic survival skills, learning how to recognize signs of infiltration or sabotage. The message was clear: humanity would not be caught off guard again. Meanwhile, the Star Destroyers continued to evolve. Engineers aboard the Eclipse and other flagships analyzed data collected during the battle, identifying weaknesses in both human and Vorthak designs. New upgrades were implemented almost daily, enhancing speed, firepower, and defensive capabilities. Experimental weapons entered testing phases, including gravity manipulators capable of tearing apart enemy ships without firing a single shot. Shield generators grew more efficient, allowing destroyers to withstand prolonged assaults without faltering. Each improvement brought humanity closer to achieving what many believed impossible: total domination of the battlefield. Admiral Elena Vasquez played a crucial role in these advancements. Her leadership extended far beyond commanding troops. She inspired innovation, pushing her team to think outside the box and explore bold ideas. Under her guidance, the Star Destroyers transformed from mere war machines into self-sustaining fortresses. Hydroponic gardens supplied fresh food for crews on long missions, while quantum computers processed information faster than ever before. Medical bays equipped with cutting-edge technology ensured injured personnel received immediate care, drastically reducing casualties. Every aspect of life aboard the ships was optimized for efficiency and endurance. As weeks turned into months, humanity's influence expanded further into the galaxy. Colonies rebuilt stronger than ever, fortified by lessons learned during the conflict. Proxima Haven, though scarred by destruction, rose from its ashes, its dome reinforced with materials harvested from asteroids. Other settlements followed suit, adopting similar measures to protect against future attacks. Trade routes reopened, connecting distant worlds and fostering cooperation between diverse cultures. For the first time in history, humanity truly felt like a galactic power, a united front capable of shaping the destiny of the cosmos. Word of humanity's triumph spread quickly, reaching even the most isolated corners of the universe. Alien species who had once dismissed humans as insignificant newcomers now regarded them with awe and fear. Diplomatic envoys arrived from neighboring star systems, seeking alliances or offering tribute in exchange for protection. Some races openly praised humanity's courage, hailing them as heroes who had stood up to tyranny. Others whispered warnings, cautioning against provoking such a formidable foe. News outlets across the galaxy broadcast footage of the Star Destroyers in action, cementing their reputation as unstoppable juggernauts. Even the Vorthak couldn't ignore the shift in public perception. Once revered as apex predators, they now found themselves vilified as cowards who had picked on weaker opponents only to be humiliated when challenged. Rumors circulated about internal dissent within their ranks, with lower-ranking soldiers questioning the wisdom of continuing the fight. Morale plummeted, exacerbated by dwindling resources and mounting losses. General Zixlar struggled to maintain control, his authority undermined by whispers of incompetence. For the first time in centuries, cracks appeared in the foundation of the Vorthak Empire. Determined to reclaim their dignity, the Vorthak launched a desperate gambit. Using stolen human blueprints, they constructed a prototype vessel modeled after the Star Destroyers. Dubbed the Zyrinth, this ship represented their last hope of turning the tide. Larger and more heavily armed than any previous design, it incorporated elements of human technology alongside traditional Vorthak engineering. Its engines burned hotter, its shields pulsed brighter, and its weapons packed enough punch to rival even the mightiest destroyer. If successful, the Zyrinth could level the playing field, or so they believed. When the Zyrinth emerged from hyperspace near the edge of human-controlled space, it immediately drew attention. Sensors aboard nearby Star Destroyers detected its presence, triggering alarms throughout the fleet. Admiral Vasquez wasted no time ordering an intercept. "This is it," she said grimly, addressing her crew. "They're testing us. Let's show them what happens when you copy something you don't understand." The ensuing skirmish was brief but brutal. The Zyrinth unleashed everything it had, firing plasma torpedoes and energy beams in rapid succession. At first, it seemed as though the Vorthak might have succeeded. Their new weapon inflicted significant damage on several human ships. But the Star Destroyers adapted quickly, exploiting weaknesses in the Zyrinth's hybrid design. Overheated reactors caused critical malfunctions while poorly calibrated shields failed under sustained fire. Within minutes, the Zyrinth was crippled, drifting helplessly as boarding parties swarmed aboard. Inside the wreckage, human soldiers discovered evidence of the Vorthak's desperation. Notes scrawled on bulkheads revealed frantic calculations, and half-baked theories highlighting the rushed nature of the project. When interrogated, captured crew members confessed that the Zyrinth had been rushed into service without proper testing, driven by pressure from higher-ups. It was a gamble, one that had ended in disaster. With the Zyrinth destroyed and their morale shattered, the Vorthak finally conceded defeat. General Zixlar transmitted a formal surrender to Admiral Vasquez, acknowledging humanity's superiority and pledging to cease hostilities. "You have proven yourselves worthy adversaries," he stated reluctantly. "We will withdraw from your territories and leave you in peace." Though skeptical of the Vorthak's intentions, humanity accepted the surrender cautiously. Star Destroyers maintained a vigilant presence along former battlefronts, ready to respond to any sign of betrayal. Meanwhile, diplomatic talks began, aiming to establish lasting peace between the two species. While trust would take years, if not decades, to rebuild, the groundwork had been laid. As the galaxy settled into an uneasy calm, humanity reflected on what they had achieved. From the ashes of tragedy, they had forged a brighter future, not just for themselves but for countless others. The Star Destroyers, once hidden secrets buried beneath Earth's surface, now soared proudly through the stars, embodying humanity's indomitable spirit. The galaxy entered a new era, one shaped by the aftermath of humanity's clash with the Vorthak. The war had left scars, both physical and emotional, but it also forged bonds that transcended borders, ideologies, and even species. For the first time in recorded history, humanity wasn't just another player on the galactic stage. They were leaders, protectors, and symbols of resilience. The Star Destroyers, once hidden beneath Earth's surface, now patrolled the stars openly, their presence serving as both a deterrent and an invitation. They deterred would-be aggressors from testing humanity's resolve, while inviting peaceful civilizations to join hands in building a better future. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal, or at least as close to normal as it could be after such a monumental conflict. Monuments dedicated to fallen heroes stood tall in cities around the world, their plaques engraved with messages of gratitude and remembrance. Schools taught children about the sacrifices made during the war, emphasizing not only the bravery of soldiers, but also the unity displayed by civilians who contributed in countless ways. Farmers donated food to refugee camps, engineers worked overtime to repair damaged infrastructure, and artists painted murals celebrating hope over despair. Humanity's collective effort became a source of pride, reminding everyone that strength wasn't measured solely by weapons or technology but by the willingness to stand together. Colonies across the galaxy flourished under renewed protection. Proxima Haven, rebuilt stronger than ever, became a symbol of recovery and perseverance. Its dome shimmered with reinforced materials capable of withstanding even the most devastating attacks. Inside, parks were replanted, homes reconstructed, and schools reopened. Survivors shared their stories with younger generations, ensuring that the lessons of the past wouldn't fade into obscurity. Other colonies followed suit, adopting similar measures to safeguard their futures. Trade routes reopened, connecting distant worlds and fostering cooperation between diverse cultures. Markets buzzed with activity as merchants exchanged goods ranging from exotic spices to advanced machinery. Humanity's expansion into space no longer felt like colonization, it felt like community. Yet despite these achievements, humanity remained cautious. The Vorthak's surrender didn't erase centuries of aggression, nor did it guarantee lasting peace. Spies reported whispers of dissent within the remnants of the Vorthak Empire, rumors of rogue factions plotting revenge. To counter this threat, Admiral Elena Vasquez ordered regular patrols along contested borders, ensuring that any hostile movements were detected early. Intelligence operatives infiltrated alien networks, gathering data on potential threats before they materialized. Scientists continued refining the Star Destroyer's technology, adding upgrades designed to anticipate and neutralize emerging dangers. Humanity knew better than to let its guard down, not when so much was at stake. Beyond military preparedness, humanity sought to redefine its role in the galaxy. Diplomatic missions extended invitations to neighboring species, offering alliances based on mutual respect rather than fear. Many accepted, eager to benefit from humanity's technological advancements and protective umbrella. Others hesitated, wary of aligning themselves too closely with a race that had proven itself capable of overwhelming force. Still, humanity persisted, determined to prove that their intentions were noble. Cultural exchanges flourished as humans learned about alien traditions, art forms, and philosophies, and vice versa. Shared experiences bridged gaps that had once seemed insurmountable, creating friendships where none had existed before. One particularly poignant moment came during a summit held aboard the Eclipse, Admiral Vasquez's flagship. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the ship's grand hall, seated around a circular table that symbolized equality and collaboration. As debates unfolded, it became clear that humanity's influence extended beyond mere diplomacy. Their emphasis on teamwork, innovation, and inclusivity inspired others to adopt similar values. Even former adversaries acknowledged the wisdom in working together, recognizing that unity offered far greater rewards than division. By the end of the summit, several treaties were signed, pledging cooperation on everything from resource sharing to scientific research. But perhaps the most profound change occurred within humanity itself. The war had forced people to confront uncomfortable truths about their own nature, the capacity for violence, the allure of power, the fragility of peace. Yet it had also revealed something equally powerful: the ability to rise above those instincts. Soldiers who had fought side by side with strangers from different nations discovered common ground in shared struggles. Scientists who had competed fiercely for funding collaborated seamlessly to solve problems. Families separated by light years found solace in knowing they were part of something larger than themselves. Humanity realized that survival wasn't enough. They wanted to thrive, to leave behind a legacy worth remembering. This realization manifested in countless ways. Artists created masterpieces inspired by the war, capturing moments of heroism, sacrifice, and renewal. Musicians composed symphonies that echoed through concert halls on multiple planets, blending human melodies with alien harmonies. Writers penned novels exploring themes of unity, forgiveness, and hope, imagining futures where conflict gave way to understanding. These creative expressions weren't just entertainment, they were testaments to humanity's refusal to let tragedy define them. Instead, they chose to focus on what came next, rebuilding, growing, and dreaming. Even the Star Destroyers evolved beyond their original purpose. No longer confined to roles as instruments of destruction, they became hubs of exploration and discovery. Crews ventured into uncharted regions of space, mapping nebulae, cataloging new species, and uncovering ancient ruins left behind by long-extinct civilizations. Some ships carried ambassadors, delivering messages of goodwill to isolated worlds. Others transported researchers studying cosmic phenomena like black holes and supernovae. The fleet's mission expanded from defense to enlightenment, proving that humanity's reach extended far beyond conquest. As years passed, the legend of the Star Destroyers grew. Tales of their exploits spread across the galaxy, inspiring awe and admiration wherever they went. Children played games pretending to pilot the mighty vessels, while storytellers wove myths about their origins. Some claimed the destroyers were gifts from forgotten gods, sent to guide humanity toward greatness. Others believed they represented the pinnacle of evolution, proof that determination and ingenuity could overcome any obstacle. Regardless of interpretation, one thing remained constant. The Star Destroyers symbolized humanity's triumph over adversity. For the Vorthak, the story ended differently. Though they withdrew from human-controlled territories, their empire never fully recovered. Internal strife tore apart what little cohesion remained as factions vied for control amid dwindling resources. Rogue commanders launched sporadic raids against weaker species, earning condemnation from across the galaxy. Eventually, the Vorthak faded into obscurity, their name synonymous with arrogance and hubris, but even among them, whispers of humanity's rise persisted. Stories of Earth's sky parting to reveal unstoppable warships became cautionary tales, warnings against underestimating seemingly insignificant foes. In the end, humanity's true victory wasn't measured in battles won or enemies defeated. It was measured in lives saved, connections forged, and dreams fulfilled. They had faced extinction and emerged stronger, not because of superior firepower, but because of their unwavering commitment to each other. When the Vorthak attacked, they thought they were dealing with scattered outposts vulnerable to annihilation. What they encountered instead was a united civilization willing to fight for every inch of progress. As the galaxy moved forward, humanity looked to the stars with renewed purpose. They knew challenges lay ahead, new adversaries, unexplored frontiers, and mysteries waiting to be unraveled. But they also knew they were ready. The Star Destroyers stood as reminders of how far they had come and how much farther they could go. Together they vowed to explore, to learn, and to build a future worthy of those who had sacrificed everything to make it possible. And somewhere, deep in the cosmos, the Vorthak whispered tales of the day Earth's sky parted, revealing a force that changed the course of galactic history forever.